Hello everyone. So today's topic is delivered tailored vessel design reports, drawings and specifications. The agenda today would be split into 5 sections. First we will cover modified design templates and library files. Then we'll go for customized drawing sheets. Then adjust design reports, and we will talk about how to configure cost estimation files. And finally add and edit materials in the materials database. Now, modification of design templates and library files. Why is it important? Because as we all know, we work in a multidisciplinary organization in the design and engineering department. And it's very important to optimize our workflow and make best utilization of our time and efforts. So once you configure the files based on your needs, you will find tremendous improvement in your department's productivity and efficiency. Today, first, as we start with the modifying of the design templates and library files, and I will first talk about how to set the folder, how to locate the folder where you will find all your configuration files. So first, let's talk about where the directories are. So if you go to the program, there is a icon, the menu icon on the top left, which says File and then Preference, and under that you will see all the directories. So your program directory, your working directory, you have your input data directory, and then the fourth one you see customizable database files path, which says ends with config. That's where all your configuration files are located, and we will talk very heavily on that folder, around the materials in that folder. Then you have the material database path and name, which again falls under the config folder, and then the estimation configuration file and the bill of material template. So it's easy to locate the config file folder. You go to see users, public documents, and then you browse to the version of AutoPIPE Vessel that you have downloaded. The last one, in case you have not done, I would recommend you do it, is the 40.4 version, Connect Edition version 4, but you could probably have an older version, doesn't matter, the file structure is same. So browse to your AutoPIPE Vessel version number that you're currently using that's active, and then there you will find config folder. Inside that folder you will see various different files. Mainly majority of them will be Excel files. Now earlier these were Word files, but in the recent past we converted those to Excel, and you will find that it's very easy and much more convenient to work with Excel, particularly for engineering applications and entry of data and numbers. So we have done that, and you will find various different configuration files, including how to modify bolts, saddles, gusset, nozzle projections, flange, etc. So just take a look at one of the files here as an example, the defmat.xls. So this talks about the default material. So if you're aware with the program, when you go to the vessel properties dialog box in the material section, when you click on that apply default data at the right button that you see, this is where it points to the defmat.xls file. And on the left column of the Excel file, you will see cs/csasme a div1, div2, like that. So when you click on apply default data, this is where it comes from, it populates. As you see, the shell material is SA516 grade 60, but you can change it to 516 grade 70 or any other grade that you commonly use. So that's how to change the defmat.xls file, and that's how it affects the material database. There are examples here that I have taken from few of the template files. This shows your thread library file with the information and the dimensions sections. The information section shows a brief sketch with all the dimensions called out, and in the dimensions you will find where you can enter the dimensions. Now it is already provided to you, all these files, so you can upgrade and you can add data as you feel to improve your library and input more materials that you might want to use and that's not already available. So it's very easy to refer to. You look at the first the sketch that comes in the first worksheet, and you can relate to the various dimensions. For instance, shown here are the major diameter D, page P, and then D2, D3, A, D3, the areas, and you can refer to that, and you can see what dimensions are being called out and what to enter in the Excel file. In the anchor data table, you see on the top left, this is a screenshot from the anchor section of AutoPIPE Vessel. And if you see the drop down, you have AP Vessel, Petrobras, Foster, Wheeler, FWF, Shell, Technique. All these are standards, and you can definitely include your own standards, as we will see very soon in one of the examples that we'll look at. So on the right, you see in the anchor database, you have all the different different standards are shown: AP Vessel, Petrobras, and the different types, bolt diameter, and all the dimensions A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I. They're all being called out. Likewise, you have library file for brackets. As I said, you can include your own bracket dimensions as well. You have library files for legs, gussets, welded fittings, as well as for nozzle pads. So the nozzle pad dimension, you see there are various different dimensions of the nozzle reinforcing pad. So when you click on a particular nozzle dimension, these are automatically included in the design. In the flange dimension also, there are ASME, DIN, NF, EN flanges, and in the drop down you can see you have ASME, NF, DIN, EN, GOST, and recently we have also included the Chinese standards, which is HGT and NBT standards. Now modifying the design template, we will talk a little bit about how to include additional, uh, data. If you have, for example, this is being shown for a gasket. So if you have a gasket, if you open the gasket tab and run down the list of gaskets, for instance, flat metal jacketed, and you look at iron or soft steel with non-asbestos filler and the gasket geometry, gasket factor, seating pressure, you will be able to correlate with the gasket characteristics table in the Excel file. And the way it is located is there is a number, unique number 503. When you add these numbers, you can add the next available number, it doesn't matter. And then it lists flat metal jacketed, and there is this English designation, and then designation Francois, which is in French, and then Deutsch name in Russian, because this is a multi-language software, so it's used all over the world. So obviously, if your language is English, you can write the first whatever description you add, that will be added in the English language pack, and then you add the width, the M factor and Y factors. So how to add the gaskets? The first step is basically every time you add anything to the configuration file, you go to the file execute, and then click on manage customizable files, and then there is a button called choose file. So when you click that, it will open a browser, but one thing to note here is that you should not close this window because then you will not be able to update. So keep this window open, that customizable files management, and you see there's a gasket.xls. Select that, and the step 2, we will add new gasket details. For example, if you want to add types of gasket like cam profile and test, these are hypothetical cases. There is perhaps no such thing as non-serrated cam profile, but I just created examples. So at the end of the table, Excel table, you add 3 rows and name it as cam profile and serrated and under English designation, and then cam profile non-serrated, and then I add tests, and I added the WMY in megapascal and Y in PSI. And once you do that, you save the file and do not close this Excel file as well. The reason is when you click on move to production, it writes to the database. So if you close the file, it will not be able to write. And once you click on move to production, you will see that that Excel file has gone blank. The worksheet is not there. The file is, the Excel program is still there running, but the worksheet has disappeared. That's when you realize that it has been written to the database. So you click on move to production and then close, and then when you go back to the gasket details, you see verify new gasket addition. So yes, you see the serrated and non-serrated gaskets being added, the gasket factors and seating pressure. Custom saddle, likewise, this is perhaps one of the most commonly used types of custom design templates that we find our customers always including, because there's a lot of dimensions in saddle, and most often than not, customers use their own standards. So let's say we have a specific company called ABC Engineering, again hypothetical, they have their own saddle standards, and as you see here, it is not defined. So how do you define it? Again, it's very easy. There is a custom saddle, a customizable file called dimsad.xls. So you see here, likewise we saw earlier for boards and for gaskets and gussets, you have a custom saddle sketch where all the dimensions are called out in the first sheet. So it's very easy to refer to. And in the second worksheet, you have the dimensions, the raw data. So as you see here, it starts with AP Vessel, and there is no such thing as ABC Engineering. So what we are going to do is you're going to add a few rows and add the name of the company, the standard ABC Engineering, and the diameters and all the other dimensions that are called out here. And likewise we did earlier, we click on save the Excel file and then move to production, and then click on close. And then when you go open your saddle section, you find that the ABC Engineering has now it has now popped up. And if you see the dimensions below, they have all been extracted from the dimsad.xls. So also one more thing to show here is that what if you don't have your saddle standard, or you're finding it uh, uh, initially more work to to include your saddle details in the configuration file. What you can do is there's a field called user defined. You see in the drop down at the top. So if you click there, all your saddle dimensions sections become active, and then you can input the saddle dimensions there. So customization of drawing sheet, you can add, delete, edit drawing sheets, add title blocks, add and remove component details. Just like I explained before, the config folder is again the folder where you need to browse to find the configuration file for the drawing sheets. It's called vuex.emav. So that is the one that you need to modify, and I will tell you how to do that. So before we move on, just to remind you all that you can export your vessel and extend your drawings to 3 formats: Microsoft, MicroStation, AutoCAD. We have all the way till AutoCAD 2017, and AutoCAD 2018 is now under progress for integration. So very soon in the next version, you'll see AutoCAD 2018. And of course, SolidWorks till SolidWorks 2017 exists. You can export to either MicroStation, AutoCAD, or SolidWorks for 2D and 3D. So likewise, just like we explained earlier, you go to execute, manage customizable customization files, and set drawing, layout, and move to production. When you open that with that icon, when you click on set drawing, layout, and move to production, there's a window that opens up. It's called set drawing layout. You go to file and then click open. There's a browser from where you can open the vuex.emav file. And when you open that vuex file, you will see a template, which basically essentially is a template of the configuration of the files. So you see on the top right, there's the vessel type. So it's a vessel on skirt, pressure vessel, shell and tube, heat exchanger, boiler, etc. And then there are sections for the configuration, whether it's a vertical vessel or a horizontal vessel, and how many chambers. So and then on the template, you can select things that you don't want on a particular sheet, or you can add multiple sheets, etc. So let's take a quick look. So we click on generate drawing, and as we see in the first sheet, we have details which shows the flange. Now what if you don't want to show this flange details in the first sheet? So we can customize that. We will go to change the drawing template. We open Vuex. We choose pressure vessel, and then we select horizontal. It's a single chamber, and we have 2 sheets just like we saw. The format was A0. So what we do here is we select and we click on transfer to available. So now from the drawing sheet it goes to the library. So it is taken out of the drawing sheet. You see we click there and click on transfer to available. So we replace this file, we update it, save, move to production. And again generate the drawing sheet, and yes, the flange is gone. Now what if you want to add it back? It's very simple, just repeat the process. Now instead of transferring to available, we will set transfer to set. So we will go for the flange designations here, M1, M2, M3, etc. And we click on transfer to set. And then we can just hold that available, whatever is available in the set, that M1, M2, M3, M4 flange, and drag it and place it on the drawing template. And you can precisely change the XY origin and the scale of that view of that component, which is flange in this case. You can do minor adjustments. So likewise, we repeat with all the other flanges. And then finally, we generate the drawing and we find that, let's see. So yeah, it's back there. So as you see here, it's very easy to modify the drawing sheet and customize it. And you can also change the title blocks and other things like you can add multiple sheets, etc. To the drawings. Likewise, for the design reports, you can change the design reports. One thing to note here is that you have a directory where your design reports and estimation reports are located. So in case you have any problem opening sometimes the report from the main program, you can browse to what you call here the AutoPIPE Vessel, the version number, and instead of config, there is a folder called puser1. So puser1 is for design report, and puser1e is for estimation report. And likewise, all the report configuration files are also located in the config folder. So the report tab, if you open, you see multiple languages: French, English, Polish, Portuguese, Spanish, Russian, German, Croatian, Chinese. So you have available reports in many languages. And we will look at a quick view of how to modify the reports. So you can open the report and you see here there is no standard company report available. It says my report. So let's say you want to add your own company's name and address. So you go to, you first check what is the type of the report. So it says A4 or letter. So we go for A4, and then in the config report folder, you will change the A4 format. We will overwrite the template, and let's say we input ABC Engineering. We type in some address in the report header. And when you update it, you see that it has already been added. Now the report is pretty detailed. All the information are shown here. The table of contents, the elements of geometry under internal pressure, lifted, erected, operating, shutdown, test cases. There is also a section for, let me just go back a little bit, where you see here, there is reports. Normally what we do is AutoPIPE Vessel gives a very detailed report for all the test cases, but in certain section times you don't need to, or you probably don't have the time to review all the load cases. So this is an example where it's a very simple equipment, but still you have 189 pages, And in cases of multiple, complex heat exchangers with multiple load cases and different loading conditions, you can have many pages, maybe hundreds of pages of report. So what do you do? There is an easy solution for that. There is a section where it says report determining cases only. So what it does is it reports only the determining case. So if you click on OK, and if you review the report, you will find it just boils down to 58 pages and just reports the worst case scenario here, which is the operation with normal wind. There's also another section called summarize report. So what it does is it doesn't show the detailed characteristic of the equivalent beam. So there are cases where you want to do an advanced analysis and you want to look at much more details than what normally engineers would review. So that's why we end up putting everything in the report. But there are these options available for summary reports or report determining cases. So in this summary report, you see all the load cases, but the details of the stresses and equivalent beam calculation method reports are not shown, just to keep the report simple and light. You can adjust the design report. In the design report section, you can select language, you can select the unit system, you can unselect the thing that you don't want. For instance, you don't want tube sheet layout or introduction or body flange cover details. You just want, let's say, body flange and cover details. You can select that only. And you can change the position of the items that you want in the order that you want in the report. So you can click and drag and place it where you want. And in case you want to revert back, you can just set reset report content to default. You can add the job tag and the vessel tag details. The configuration for cost estimation files. This is a section by itself. I will cover very briefly. There are two essentially configuration files called param and param US, for mainly for SI and US systems units respectively. So this is where this is also located in the configuration folder, and these are parameter files for your cost estimation. So if you go to the file preference again, you see the estimation configuration file. The location is config /param. And what the beauty of this is, if you are a engineering company or EPC company, and if you have different locations, let's say you have a location in United States or China, India, Europe, different places have different costs. If you want to compare the cost of the vessel fabrication in various places of the globe, and you have some data on the hourly rates, etc., you can create multiple files. For instance, I create here param-site1.cfg. The other idea behind creating a copy of the param file here is that you don't probably want to disturb the original file. So we'll quickly look at it. So you can go to that geared, uh, so that gear icon over there in the cost estimation file, that is where how you update your cost estimation configuration file. You can change the tasks. You can add, edit, delete tasks. You can change the formula. So we will take a look at a quick example here. We will select param site 1, and we will look at a particular item, let's say 20.05 barrel. And as you see here, I want to add, let's say, an assembly hole manufacturing process which doesn't exist. It's a part of your cost estimation formula, let's say. So I select 20.05 in the cost in the configuration folder, and I add a task called 10.12, name it as assembly hole drilling. And I say manual method, and I input a calculation method. I add a parameter called number of holes, and I put a small equation there. So no programming knowledge is required. You just need to learn some basic file, how to browse through the different files and in the and the different menus in the configuration folder, and we can guide you if you want to configure your cost estimation datasheet. This is really powerful and will help you in getting very accurate cost estimation. So as you see here, number of holes per unit length has been added already. The parameter and also the task assembly hole drilling has been added. So it will now be considered for your cost estimation analysis. Going back to the configuration file, you can add the rate and time. You see this cost of cutting, preparing, rolling. These costs vary site to site, so you can overwrite and update those. Okay, addition and editing of materials in the database. So we have material.emdm, that is the main file that you need to configure. So here we will go through an example of duplex stainless steel SA240 grade 2205 if you want to add. As you see here, stainless steel, that category is not available. So how do we add it? It's relatively straightforward. So just like we did for other options like configuration, cost estimation files, etc., we copy that database and we select the database from the material database management, and we select the material which is the most similar looking. For instance, here is a 317, and copy it and overwrite it, and we edit. So ASME 2 2205, we open it, we update 31803, the units number, we go back and then click on apply change and write to database. So we confirm that, and then when you go back and check, you will find that your material is already there. The duplex stainless steel has been added. It's very easy, very convenient, and it gives you a lot of power to add materials on your own. So with that, I come to the end. Thank you very much for your patience and for your time. I will now make myself available for questions. Can you hear me?
Pradeep. Yep, we have a couple of questions coming in. So I'm going to start with the first one here. Can you enter custom gasket details?
Yes, the custom gasket details, like I mentioned, it is possible. You go to that gasket.xls file, and you add the number of rows at the end of the Excel file, and you enter the details. So it is totally possible. I just show 1 second here, like we did. So just like we covered the cam profile and test type gaskets. Yes.
Okay, great. Another one, can you export the nozzle local loads for analysis by a third-party software?
Yes, nozzle local load you can analyze. First of all, I would like to say that you can apply all the different local load methods, WRC, PD5500, GOST, all those methods you can apply, EN also. So if you want to export nozzle local load, for example, to nozzle Nozzle Pro software, you can do that through the nozzle local load tab of the nozzle section.
Okay.
Yes.
How many customizable cost estimation configuration files can be created?
There's no limit. You can create as many cost estimation configuration files. It's just simple copy paste option. So you can create as many as you want. One thing you do need to make sure is that you select the right unit. So either it's US or SI. So that's something it's dangerous if you don't pay attention to. So that's something you have to be careful about which cost estimation file you copy, whether it's the US one or SI one.
Okay, good. Another question, what material standards are offered in the program?
Material standards, obviously the most common material standard is ASME, but you can also use DIN, you can use GB, the Chinese standard, GOST, EN material. So all the common materials are available.
Okay, good. And it looks to be the last question. Can you design per wind and seismic codes?
Yes, you can. All the international wind and seismic codes are available, including ASC, BC, IBC.
Excellent. Thanks, Sudeep. It looks like that wraps up our questions for today.